The marble-floored lobby fell quiet as laughter echoed from a circle of bank executives. They chuckled openly at the sight of a woman clad in jogging gear and a baseball cap. Vanessa Mitchell stood firm, her expression composed, as they dismissed her claim of potential ownership. "This bank isn't available to people like you," the manager scoffed, his voice heavy with disdain. What none of them realized was that Vanessa's husband had already sealed the deal. Ownership had quietly shifted into their hands. When he walked through those doors, their laughter would freeze into stunned disbelief. The morning sunlight stretched long across the peaceful streets of Oakage as Vanessa kept a steady jogging rhythm. At 55, she moved with the vitality of someone years younger. Her silver blonde hair, secured in a neat ponytail beneath her navy blue cap, shimmered gently as she ran. The familiar thump of her water bottle against her hip accompanied her as she neared Miller Park. This run had long been her refuge. Long before she met Richard, long before their lives had transformed so completely. To neighbors who waved at her in passing, she was simply the kind Mrs. Mitchell, the one who volunteered at the library and always remembered birthdays. Her breathing even, Vanessa slowed near the community bulletin board by the park's entrance. A bright yellow flyer caught her attention, bringing her to a halt. Oakage Community Bank closure notice. She stepped closer, her brow furrowing as she scanned the notice. 30 days? They're only giving us 30 days, she murmured, her concern deepening as she read about the acquisition by National Financial Group, a sprawling corporation notorious for closing small-town branches and stripping away personalized service. Faces flickered in her mind. Mrs. Henderson, 87 years old, who still strolled to the bank every Friday to deposit her pension check. The loan officer who had helped local businesses get on their feet. This wasn't just a bank, it was the financial pulse of Oakage. Her run forgotten, Vanessa pulled out her phone and dialed Richard. "It's me. Have you seen the notice about Oakage Community Bank?" she asked, her voice brisk. She listened as he responded, her face shifting from worried to focused. "I know you're in meetings all day, but this matters. Remember what we talked about last month?" She paused. "Exactly. I'm going over there now to see what's going on. No need to change your plans. I'll handle the initial conversations." Ending the call, she glanced at her watch. The bank opened in 20 minutes. She hadn't intended to visit a financial institution dressed like this, but some things took precedence over appearance. As she jogged toward the bank, old memories resurfaced of her early struggles before Richard. Loan officers who scoffed at her bookstore idea, financial advisors who talked down to her like a child, the countless dismissals because she didn't fit their picture of a successful entrepreneur. That had been 15 years ago, before her bookstore had blossomed into a regional chain, before she'd met Richard Mitchell at a publishing conference, before their partnership in both love and business had rewritten their futures. But Vanessa had never forgotten what it felt like to be underestimated. That was why, even with their wealth, she still drove her aging sedan, shopped at the farmer's market, and ran the same neighborhood routes. It wasn't a performance. It was simply who she was. Reaching the glass doors of the bank, Vanessa took a deep breath. Through the windows, she saw staff preparing for the day. Sharply dressed men and women organizing paperwork, readying teller counters. They looked competent, polished, and blissfully unaware that corporate forces were preparing to erase their livelihoods within weeks. Vanessa lifted her chin. She wasn't just Richard Mitchell's wife today. She was here as someone who valued community, connection, and dignity for all customers, no matter the size of their account. The manager unlocked the door, eyeing Vanessa's athletic wear with thinly veiled disapproval. Exhaling slowly, she stepped inside. The marble floors and rich mahogany furniture radiated tradition and permanence. Conversations hushed. A few employees looked up, their expressions flickering between curiosity and quiet judgment when they noticed her attire. Can I help you? A young receptionist asked, her tone polite but doubtful. Yes, Vanessa said steadily. I'd like to speak with the manager about the closure notice. The receptionist smiled thinly, her eyes cool. Do you have an appointment? No, but this is urgent. I see, the receptionist replied, skepticism lacing her words. May I ask the nature of your business? Vanessa paused before answering. It concerns an alternative to the planned closure. That caught the receptionist's attention. She lifted the phone and murmured into it before gesturing toward the waiting area. Ms. Kensington will see you shortly. Please have a seat. Vanessa thanked her and sat, the smooth leather chair accentuating how out of place her jogging clothes seemed in this environment. Nearby, she caught murmured comments, probably here to complain about her mortgage. Like she can do anything to stop the closure. Shouldn't she be at the gym? Vanessa tuned them out and studied the framed photographs on the wall. Decades of Oakage history, the bank featured prominently in community milestones. After a long 15 minutes, a tall blonde woman in a flawless gray suit approached. Her smile was rehearsed, her handshake quick. I'm Patricia Kensington, branch manager. I understand you had questions about the transition? She motioned toward her office, clearly intent on keeping this matter contained. Actually, Vanessa replied, I'm here to discuss a potential purchase. Patricia froze mid-step and turned slowly. A purchase? Yes, of the bank. Patricia's laugh burst out, sharp and dismissive. Ma'am, banks aren't like corner stores. You can't just walk in and buy one. Her gaze flicked over Vanessa's workout attire. Especially not someone like me, Vanessa finished evenly. Patricia's smile snapped into corporate politeness. What I mean is, acquisitions are handled at a corporate level. National Financial Group has already started that process. I'm aware, Vanessa replied, but their offer isn't finalized. I believe there's still room for alternatives that would serve this community better. By now, their exchange had attracted attention. Several employees had edged closer, subtly eavesdropping. Patricia's smile tightened. Perhaps you'd like to speak with a financial advisor about investment options more suitable for you? That won't be necessary, Vanessa said. I'm prepared to make an offer for the entire Oakage Community Bank. A muffled snicker came from nearby. Patricia no longer bothered to hide her amusement. Ms. Mitchell? Vanessa Mitchell, she corrected gently. Ms. Mitchell, acquiring a bank requires millions of dollars, complex legal work, and significant backing. Frankly, her eye swept Vanessa's appearance. I'm not sure you understand what that entails. Vanessa's tone remained calm. It seems you're assuming things about my finances based on how I'm dressed. Patricia's smile turned condescending. Look, I admire your community spirit, but this isn't a bake sale fundraiser. It's a multi-million-dollar financial institution. More staff gathered nearby, some openly grinning now. Perhaps if you made an appointment, came back with your financial advisor, and dressed more appropriately, we could at least listen to your concerns about the closure. Vanessa noticed the exchanged glances, the rolling eyes. She stayed composed. This wasn't about her ego. It was about protecting her community. I don't need an appointment, she said softly, and I don't need a financial advisor. What I need is for you to take my offer seriously. Patricia's mask of politeness cracked slightly. She gestured stiffly toward her office. Fine, let's discuss this privately. Inside her glass-walled office, Patricia sat behind her large desk, deliberately creating distance. She didn't offer Vanessa a chair. Ms. Mitchell, let me be clear. National Financial Group is offering $12 million for this branch. Do you have that kind of capital ready? I believe the branch's worth is higher, considering its community value, Vanessa answered evenly. I'm prepared to offer $15 million. Patricia's brows shot upward before settling into an expression of pity and disbelief. She turned slightly and exchanged a knowing glance with a colleague outside the glass wall, even rolling her eyes. And how exactly do you plan to fund this purchase? A community bake sale? A GoFundMe? Her voice dripped sarcasm. Outside, even more employees lingered to watch. My husband and I have the necessary funds, Vanessa said plainly. Patricia barked out a laugh. Your husband? And what does he do? He's in finance, Vanessa replied. Finance? Patricia repeated slowly, stretching the word out. You mean like a bank teller? Or maybe he sells insurance from your garage? A ripple of muted laughter drifted through the swelling crowd outside. Someone, loud enough to be heard, muttered with a smirk, maybe he drives an armored truck. Vanessa didn't flinch, but her jaw tensed ever so slightly. Actually, she began, but Patricia's sharp voice cut through. Let me stop you right there. Patricia rose from her seat, her expression sharpening. This has gone on long enough. I've humored you because we value all members of the community. Even the... She paused, her lips pursed as she searched for a polite insult. Eccentric ones. But I have actual business to attend to. She strode to her office door and swung it open. A clear dismissal. Jerry, she called to the nearby security guard, please escort Miss Mitchell out. She was just leaving. The crowd outside didn't bother hiding their amusement now. A man in a sleek, tailored suit leaned toward his colleague and stage whispered, think she even knows the difference between a million and a billion? As Vanessa stood tall, Patricia's smile cooled into something razor thin. Perhaps next time wear something more appropriate if you want to be taken seriously at a financial institution. The security guard approached hesitantly, his discomfort visible. Ma'am, if you'd please come with me. Vanessa's gaze swept over the sea of smug faces. The judgment, the dismissal, all too familiar, yet no less sharp. But she knew what was coming next. Before I go, she said, her voice cutting cleanly through the now hushed lobby, I'd like the contact information for your corporate headquarters. Patricia sighed, long and theatrical. If you insist on chasing this fantasy, you can contact the Chief Acquisitions Officer at National Financial Group, though I assure you they'll have even less patience for this nonsense than I do. At that moment, a man in a charcoal suit stepped forward, gold cufflinks glinting under the lights. I'm James Wilson, Regional Director, he introduced smoothly. Is there an issue here? No issue, Patricia answered quickly, seizing the opportunity. Miss Mitchell was just leaving. She seems to think she can buy our bank. James's eyebrows lifted, his gaze flicking over Vanessa's athletic attire, before a smirk curled at the corner of his lips. Is that so? Yes, Vanessa answered evenly. I believe this branch plays a vital role in the community. I'd prefer to keep it independent rather than see it swallowed by a corporation that'll shutter it within the year. James crossed his arms, visibly entertained. And you have, what? $15 million just lying around to make that happen. Actually, yes. The room burst into open laughter. Someone at the back called, check her sneakers. Maybe she's hiding cash in the soles. James raised a hand, quieting the room, though his grin lingered. Ms. Mitchell, I admire community passion. Really, I do. But this is a bank, not a lemonade stand. I'm fully aware of how banking works, Vanessa replied coolly. Are you? His tone dripped with condescension as he gestured at her outfit. Because showing up like this, with no appointment, no documents, no apparent backing, well, it says otherwise. Patricia edged closer, basking in the support. I offered to schedule her a proper meeting, but she's insistent on being difficult. She doesn't belong here, someone jeered from the back. triggering another wave of snickers that died quickly when James cast them a stern glare. "That's enough," he barked, though his eyes still glinted with humor. Turning back to Vanessa, he softened his tone to mock sympathy. "Ms. Mitchell, this matter is far beyond your means. The sale to National Financial is nearly finalized." "Nearly, but not finalized," Vanessa corrected quietly. James exhaled sharply. "Jerry, please escort Miss Mitchell out," he ordered, and added dryly, "Perhaps consider enrolling in a financial literacy course at the community college. They're quite affordable." As the guard stepped forward again, the front doors of the bank swung open. The laughter evaporated in an instant. A tall, distinguished man entered, his charcoal suit immaculate, his presence commanding. Every gaze snapped to him as his deep voice rolled across the lobby. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Richard Mitchell's arrival froze the room. Vanessa's expression stayed serene, but her eyes softened as she turned toward her husband. "Richard, you didn't have to come." "Meetings wrapped early," he replied easily, his polished Italian shoes echoing crisply across the marble as employees instinctively parted to clear a path. Even here, among seasoned finance professionals, Richard Mitchell's name carried undeniable gravity. Forbes had recently ranked him the 28th wealthiest man in America, his empire spanning 3 continents. James Wilson's smug expression crumbled, his jaw slackening as recognition dawned. "Mr. Mitchell," he stammered, hastily extending a hand, "this is an unexpected honor." Richard ignored the handshake, locking eyes with Patricia. "I understand you've been speaking with my wife about acquiring this institution." Patricia blanched, her gaze darting between Vanessa's casual attire and Richard's bespoke elegance, trying and failing to reconcile them. "Your wife?" "Yes," Richard replied, his voice smooth but steel-edged. "Vanessa brought the community's concerns about the pending sale to my attention. We thought we might propose an alternative." James straightened, fumbling to recover. "Mr. Mitchell, had we known, if Ms. Mitchell had mentioned her connection to you, would it have changed how you treated her?" Richard asked quietly, his tone leaving no room for pretense. Patricia hurried forward, her customer service smile pasted on, brittle at the edges. "There's been a misunderstanding. We certainly meant no disrespect." "Of course not," Vanessa said softly, irony threading her voice. "You only suggested I take a financial literacy course and had security ready to throw me out." The lobby had gone utterly silent, so quiet the air conditioning's hum buzzed in the background. The employees who had laughed now studied their shoes, the walls, anywhere but at the Mitchells. Richard calmly withdrew a business card and handed it to James. "My legal team will be in touch. I believe Vanessa mentioned an offer of $15 million. James nodded quickly, clutching the card like it was spun from gold. "Make it $14 million, Richard added, his gaze sweeping the room. $1 million discount seems fair given the hospitality my wife received." Patricia's face drained of color. "Mr. Mitchell, please. Perhaps we could start over." "I think we're well past that point, Miss Kensington," Richard replied crisply, his gaze sharpened. "Though I'm curious, is judging customers by their appearance standard practice here? Something National Financial teaches in its employee training?" No one dared answer. Richard turned toward Vanessa, offering his arm. "Shall we, dear?" "Actually," Vanessa said, resting her hand lightly on his arm but keeping her gaze steady on the employees, "I'd like a moment." Richard gave a small nod, understanding the fire in her eyes. The same fierce resolve she'd had when they first met 15 years ago. Vanessa's voice rang clear. "My husband and I could purchase this bank 10 times over and not notice the expense, but that's not why I came here today." She stepped forward, her running shoes squeaking faintly on the polished floor, a small human sound in the heavy stillness. I came because Mrs. Henderson, who's banked here for 63 years, can't drive to the next town when you close this branch. I came because Sam Torres got the loan to start his restaurant here when bigger banks said no. I came because communities need banks that see people as more than numbers. Her eyes swept across the staff, pausing meaningfully on the worst offenders. They couldn't hold her gaze. The way you treated me today, assuming my worth based on my clothes, my face, my silence, is exactly why banks like this fail the very people they claim to serve. Patricia finally found her voice, brittle and shaky. Mrs. Mitchell, please. Customer service is our highest priority. Today was an unfortunate aberration. No, Vanessa replied gently. Today was revealing. Until you thought I was connected to money, I wasn't even worth basic respect. James stepped forward desperately. Perhaps we can discuss this privately. I'm sure we can come to an arrangement that satisfies everyone. Richard glanced at his watch. Our attorneys will reach out this afternoon. I suggest your board prepare for a change in ownership. As they turned to leave, a soft voice called from behind the teller counter. Mrs. Mitchell? A middle-aged woman with kind eyes stepped forward. I'm Nancy Winters. I've been with this bank for 22 years. She hesitated, then added, not all of us. I mean, many of us do care about our customers, regardless of... Vanessa offered her a warm, genuine smile. I believe you, Ms. Winters, and that's exactly why this bank is worth saving. As they walked toward the doors, the crowd parted in silence. Only Richard's final words echoed, cool and precise. When the acquisition is complete, we'll be reviewing staffing. I suggest everyone here reflect on how they represent this institution. The glass doors swung shut behind them with a soft, final thud, leaving the bank in stunned, echoing silence. Outside, Vanessa squeezed Richard's hand. So much for my peaceful morning run. Richard chuckled. You never could resist setting things right. Sometimes, Vanessa murmured, her eyes glinting, the most powerful lessons come dressed in running shoes.